Corduroy by Freeman. Corduroy is a bear who once lived in the toy department of a big store. Day after day, he waited with all the other animals and dolls for somebody to come along and take him home. The store was always filled with shoppers, buying all sorts of things, but no one ever seemed to want a small bear in green overalls. Then, one morning, a little girl stopped and looked straight into Corduroy's bright eyes. "Oh, Mommy," she said, "look, there's the very bear I've always wanted." "Not today, dear," her mother sighed. "I've spent too much already. Besides, he doesn't look new. He's lost the button to one of his shoulder straps." Corduroy watched them sadly as they walked away. "I didn't know I lost a button," he said to himself. "Tonight I'll go and see if I can find it." Late that evening, when all the shoppers had gone and the doors were shut and locked, Corduroy climbed carefully down from his shelf and began searching everywhere on the floor for his lost button. Suddenly, he felt the floor moving under him. Quite by accident, he had stepped onto an escalator, and up he went. Could this be a mountain, he wondered? I think I've always wanted to climb a mountain. He stepped off the escalator as it reached the next floor, and there, before his eyes, was a most amazing sight. Tables and chairs and lamps and sofas and rows of beds. "This must be a palace," Corduroy gasped. "I guess I've always wanted to live in a palace." He wandered around, admiring the furniture. "This must be a bed," he said. "I've always wanted to sleep in a bed." And up he crawled into a thick, large mattress. At once he saw something small and round. "Why, here's my button," he cried. He tried to pick it up, but, like all the other buttons in the mattress, it was tied down tight. He yanked and pulled with both paws until, pop! Off came the button, and off the mattress Corduroy toppled. Bang into a tall floor lamp. Off it fell with a crash. Corduroy didn't know it, but there was someone else awake in the store. The night watchman was going on his rounds on the floor above. When he heard the crash, he came dashing down the escalator. "Now, who in the world did that?" he exclaimed. "Somebody must be hiding around here." He flashed his light under and over sofas and beds until he came to the biggest bed of all. He saw 2 fuzzy brown ears sticking up from under the covers. "Hello," he said. "How did you get upstairs?" The watchman tucked Corduroy under his arm and carried him down the escalator and set him on the shelf in the toy department with the other animals and dolls. Corduroy was just waking up when the first customers came into the store in the morning. And there, looking at him with wide, warm smile, was the same little girl he'd seen only the day before. "I'm Lisa," she said, "and you're going to be my very own bear. Last night I counted what I've saved in my piggy bank, and my mother said I could bring you home." "Shall I put him in a box for you?" the saleslady asked. "Oh, no, thank you," Lisa answered, and she carried Corduroy home in her arms. She ran all the way up 4 flights of stairs into her family's apartment and straight to her own room. Corduroy blinked. There was a chair and a chest of drawers, and alongside a girl-sized bed stood a little bed just the right size for him. The room was small, nothing like the enormous palace in the department store. "This must be home," he said. "I know I've always wanted a home." Lisa sat with Corduroy on her lap and began to sew a button on his overalls. "I like you just the way you are," she said, "but you'll be more comfortable with your shoulder strap fastened." "You must be a friend," said Corduroy. "I've always wanted a friend." "Me too," said Lisa, and gave him a big hug. This is the second story in it, A Pocket for Corduroy. This is also by Don Freeman. Late one summer afternoon, Lisa and her family took their laundry to the laundromat. As always on such trips, Lisa carried along her toy bear, Corduroy. The laundromat was very busy at this hour. "Now, Corduroy, you sit right here and wait for me," Lisa said. "I'm going to go help with our wash." Corduroy waited patiently. Then suddenly he perked up his ears. Lisa's mother was saying, "Be sure to take everything out of your pockets, Lisa dear. You don't want your precious things to get all wet and soupy." "Pockets?" said Corduroy to himself. "I don't have pockets." He slid off the chair. "I must go find something to make a pocket out of," he said. He began to look around. First he came to a pile of fancy towels and washcloths, but nothing there was the right size or color. Then he saw a huge stack of colorful clothes in a laundry bag. "There ought to be something in there to make a pocket out of," he said. Without hesitating, he climbed inside the bag, which was filled with pieces of wet laundry. The dampness didn't bother Corduroy in the least. "This must be a cave," he said, sighing happily. "I've always wanted to live in a dark, cool cave." When the time came for Lisa to fetch her bear, he was gone. "Oh, Mommy," she explained, "Corduroy isn't here where I left him." "I'm sorry, honey," said her mother, "but the laundromat will be closing soon, and we must be getting home." Lisa was reluctant to leave without Corduroy, but her mother insisted. "You can come back tomorrow," she said. "I'm sure he will still be here." And they left. A young man, wearing an artist's beret, was taking his wet laundry out of a bag, the very bag Corduroy had discovered. Before he knew it, Corduroy was being tossed together with all the other sheets, shirts, shorts, and slacks inside the dryer. But just as the artist was shutting the glass door, Corduroy tumbled out onto the floor. "How in thunder did that bear get mixed up with all my things?" the artist wondered. Poor Corduroy was damp all over. "The least I can do for him is to give his overalls a good drying," said the man thoughtfully. He unbuttoned Corduroy's shoulder strap and put his overalls in the dryer. Corduroy grew dizzy as he watched the clothes spinning around, but the artist became inspired. "This would make for a wonderful painting," he said, and he took a sketch pad out of his pocket and began drawing the swirling colors. "I can hardly wait to get back to my studio." Finally, the dryer stopped whirling and the man gathered up his clothes. Then he helped Corduroy put on his warm, dry overalls. All at once, the manager of the laundromat called, "Closing time! Everybody out!" Corduroy was gently placed on top of a washing machine. "I wonder who that bear belongs to," said the artist as he was leaving. "It seems to me he should have his name someplace. He's too fine a fellow to be lost." As soon as the lights were turned off, Corduroy began his search again. He was surprised to see something white glowing in the dark. "Maybe it's snow," he said excitedly. "I've always wanted to play in the snow." He accidentally tipped over the open-lidded box, and suddenly he was covered with soft, slippery soap flakes. Gradually, Corduroy began to slip and slide. "Oh, what fun," he said with a smile. "I've always wanted to ski down a steep mountain slide." He landed paw first into an empty laundry basket. "This must be a cage," he said, peeking through the bars. "I've never wanted to live inside a cage like a bear in the zoo." But by now, Corduroy felt drowsy, so he soon nodded off to sleep. Next morning, when the manager came to open the door of the laundromat, there was Lisa waiting. "I left something here yesterday," she explained. "May I look around?" "Certainly," said the manager. "My customers are always leaving things." Lisa was searching under the chairs and in the back of the washing machines when she heard the manager call, "Is this what you're looking for, señorita?" "Yes, yes, he's my best friend," shouted Lisa as she came running. She reached in and picked Corduroy out of the basket. "So this is where you've been, you little rascal," she said. "It's time I took you home." Lisa thanked the manager and ran out the door and down the street, holding Corduroy tightly in her arms. "I thought I told you to wait for me," she said. "Why did you wander away?" "I went looking for a pocket," Corduroy said. "Oh, Corduroy, why didn't you just tell me you wanted a pocket?" asked Lisa, giving him an affectionate squeeze. That very morning, Lisa set a pocket on Corduroy's overalls. "And here is a card I made with your name on it for you to keep tucked inside," she said. "I've always wanted a purple pocket with my name tucked inside," said Corduroy, as he and Lisa nuzzled noses.